Naoya Inoue has long been regarded as one of the true kings of modern boxing, a fighter whose blend of technical mastery, destructive power, and aura of inevitability has carried him to the very top of the pound-for-pound discussion. To even suggest that he does not belong among the greatest in the sport today is to ignore the evidence that plays out each time he steps through the ropes. He is surgical in execution, devastating in output, and unrelenting in his pursuit of victory. Every punch he throws is delivered with the balance of a craftsman and the ferocity of a predator. His nickname, the Monster, is not some inflated label concocted by promoters or fans. It is a reflection of what his opponents truly see when the bell rings. And yet, for all the brilliance that has defined Inoue's rise, every era in boxing eventually brings forth a challenger who seems cut from something different, a rival who might just test the limits of even the most dominant champion. That threat, today, has emerged in the form of Murodjon Akhmadaliev, a scintillating talent whose combination of skill, willpower, and sheer aggression makes him unlike any other opponent Inoue has faced in recent years. It is rare that a fighter comes along who inspires genuine belief that they can dethrone a champion like Inoue. Many have tried, and most have failed in emphatic fashion, with Inoue leaving them battered, broken, and often questioning their career choices. But Akhmadaliev is not the typical contender, not a man content to serve as another notch on the monster's belt. He is relentless, he is cunning, and he carries the kind of punching power that can turn a fight on its head in a single exchange. The way he marches forward with marauding pressure, and the way he forces opponents into mistakes and punishes them with surgical precision makes him a figure to be feared. When people describe him as a human battering ram, it is not an exaggeration. It is a reflection of how his presence in the ring drains his rivals both physically and mentally. And as these two men now approach their September 14th collision, the question that dominates every conversation in the boxing world is whether Inoue's power and precision will once again prove insurmountable, or whether Akhmadaliev's relentless drive will finally bring an end to the monster's reign. You'll understand why Akhmadaliev is considered such a legitimate threat. One need only revisit his recent performance against Luis Castillo in Monte Carlo. From the opening bell, the stakes were clear. The winner of this bout would almost certainly position himself for a showdown with Naoya Inoue, and both men carried that weight into the ring. Castillo entered with pride, determination, and belief, but Akhmadaliev entered with something even more potent, a plan. He did not recklessly charge forward in the early going. Instead, he measured Castillo, using subtle footwork and sharp angles to frustrate the Cuban and sap his confidence. Although round one primarily functioned as a feeling-out period, Akhmadaliev had already taken control of the match. His jab landed with authority, his head movement made him a difficult target, and every feint seemed to draw a reaction that he could later exploit. Castillo was not overwhelmed, but he was being set up. By the second round, Akhmadaliev's accuracy had become the defining element of the contest. Every punch was clean, deliberate, and calculated to drain Castillo's reserves. The constant forward pressure may not have produced a dramatic moment early on, but it slowly chipped away at Castillo's energy. With each step backward, Castillo's body language betrayed frustration. He swung wildly at times, desperate to push Akhmadaliev off him, but more often than not his punches found nothing but air or the guard of the Uzbek star. The Mexican crowd grew restless as the fight's pace threatened to lull, but Akhmadaliev's camp knew exactly what was happening. They were watching their fighter systematically dismantle his opponent. By round 3, Castillo was beginning to recognize the gulf in class. His attempts to launch an offense were smothered by Akhmadaliev's superior footwork and anticipation. Whenever Castillo threw combinations, MJ either slipped out of range or countered with sharp, compact shots that landed with far greater impact. Though Castillo had brief moments of success when he fought recklessly in the pocket, those exchanges only highlighted how much smoother Akhmadaliev looked when he chose to engage. The Uzbek was not rushing. He was waiting for the perfect openings, and when they appeared, his punches landed with frightening efficiency. Round 4 saw the fight begin to turn visibly in Akhmadaliev's favor. His bodywork came into play, sinking hooks into Castillo's ribs and steadily wearing him down. Castillo, brave and proud, continued to fire back, but he was visibly slowing. His punches lacked snap, his legs lacked spring, and the damage was starting to show in his expression. Still, he hung in the pocket, refusing to wilt entirely, but the tide was clearly shifting. For Akhmadaliev, the question was no longer whether he would take control, but when he would finally push for the finish. The fifth round provided the first major turning point. With Castillo's gas tank dwindling under the weight of relentless pressure, Akhmadaliev turned up the volume. His combinations came faster, his attacks more fluid, and suddenly the fight seemed on the verge of collapse for Castillo. The Mexican continued to resist, throwing punches in defiance of his exhaustion, but Akhmadaliev's accuracy was beginning to tell. Then, with one perfectly timed shot, MJ scored a knockdown that changed everything. Castillo struggled to rise, his legs betraying the punishment they had endured. From that moment on, it felt inevitable that Akhmadaliev would end the contest. True to his reputation, Akhmadaliev did not recklessly swarm after scoring the knockdown. He applied measured pressure, stalking Castillo with calculated aggression, his eyes locked onto every sign of weakness. The sixth round saw Castillo endure further punishment, his body sagging under crisp hooks and straight left hands. Though he continued to fight valiantly, his confidence was visibly shattered. Another knockdown followed, and by this point it was clear that only his immense pride was keeping him upright. The referee and his corner began watching him closely, knowing that one more sustained attack could spell disaster. By round 8, the end had finally arrived. Akhmadaliev, calm and ruthless, turned the screw. His punches landed at will, his combinations sliced through Castillo's guard, and his opponent had nothing left to offer. The corner, recognizing the futility of further resistance, threw in the towel to save Castillo from unnecessary damage. It was a polished performance, a masterclass in pressure fighting and accuracy, and a clear statement to the boxing world. Murodjon Akhmadaliev was ready for the monster. The other side of the ledger stands Naoya Inoue's dismantling of Paul Butler, a fight that showcased him at his absolute clinical best. Butler, brave though he was, entered the ring against Inoue with the odds stacked monumentally against him. From the opening exchanges, it was obvious that he was facing a different kind of opponent, one whose speed, precision, and timing were operating on an entirely different level. Inoue found his rhythm almost immediately, using his jab to establish control and gauging Butler's reactions with chilling ease. By the end of the first round, it was clear that Inoue had already solved the puzzle. Butler's game plan, built around surviving and hoping for opportunities, quickly unraveled. He lacked the speed to keep up, the power to make Inoue hesitate, and the tactical ingenuity to disrupt the monster's rhythm. Every time he tried to mount an offense, he was countered. Every time he tried to retreat, he was trapped. The psychological toll of fighting a pound-for-pound great began to weigh heavily, and Butler looked increasingly uncomfortable as the rounds progressed. What was most striking about Inoue's performance was not just his power, though that remained a constant threat, but his ability to dominate mentally. Butler was not only being beaten physically, he was being dismantled in spirit. His corner searched for answers, but there were none. You cannot simulate the Inoue experience in sparring. You cannot truly prepare for the blend of speed, power, and accuracy until you are living it in real time. Butler found this out the hard way, as round after round slipped away from him with no sign of hope. By the middle rounds, Inoue's confidence had grown to the point where he began to show flashes of showmanship. He slipped punches with exaggerated ease, threw combinations with almost playful fluidity, and taunted Butler with his mere presence. Yet beneath the theatrics was still the relentless pursuit of destruction. Inoue never once lost sight of the task at hand. His punches thudded against Butler's body and head, each one a reminder of the gulf in class. As the fight moved into the late rounds, Butler's survival became the only storyline. He had shown toughness and heart to last as long as he had, but the punishment was mounting. Inoue's pace had not slowed. If anything, it had increased. By round 10, Butler looked drained, his legs unsteady, his eyes heavy. Inoue, smelling blood, pushed forward with ruthless intent. The 11th round proved to be the breaking point. With a flurry of punches that showcased both speed and brutality, Inoue forced the referee to step in and call a halt. Butler, brave though he had been, simply had nothing left. And so the stage is now set. On September 14th, two men who embody very different styles of destruction will collide. On one side stands Naoya Inoue, the monster, the king whose reign has been defined by his unique ability to combine flawless technique with concussive power. On the other side stands Murodjon Akhmadaliev, the relentless challenger whose marauding style and iron will make him a genuine threat to even the sport's most feared champion. The question is simple yet profound. Will Inoue's power and precision prove enough to restore order and maintain his throne, or will Akhmadaliev's unrelenting assault finally topple the monster from his perch? For fans of the sport, it is the kind of matchup that embodies everything boxing is supposed to be. It is a clash of eras, a collision of styles, and a test of wills. It is the type of fight where artistry and violence merge, where one man's dream collides with another's legacy. And as the night approaches, one truth becomes increasingly clear. This is not just another title defense, nor just another contender's bid for glory. This is a battle for supremacy, a confrontation that could redefine the landscape of an entire division. When the first bell rings, all of the speculation, all of the analysis, and all of the anticipation will dissolve into the sound of leather meeting flesh. The monster will meet the battering ram, and the world will find out whether Naoya Inoue can continue his march toward greatness unchallenged, or whether Murodjon Akhmadaliev is destined to be the man who finally brings the king to his knees.